You think you are in control of your anger? Cute. Utterly drained after spending time with someone, as if a psychic battery has been sucked dry. Is there a secret society of energy vampires among us, disguised as perfectly normal people? Prepare to unlock the dark, hilarious truth behind those who leave you feeling emotionally hollow. Picture this. You're excited for a friend's birthday dinner, a celebratory gathering brimming with good cheer. You anticipate laughter, connection, and a delightful evening. But instead, you leave feeling strangely depleted, like a wilted flower after a long drought. That nagging feeling of being emotionally leached, you know the one, is more common than you think. We've all encountered someone who leaves us feeling inexplicably worse than before we met them. It's not always obvious, sometimes it's a slow, insidious drain. This subtle psychic leaching isn't about physical energy, but emotional and psychological vitality. It's as if someone is subtly siphoning your joy, leaving you feeling hollow and depleted. Think of it as a slow, emotional hemorrhage. The culprit? Often, it's not malicious intent, but a complex interplay of unconscious projections and unmet needs. This subtle energy drain isn't about physical exhaustion. It's a depletion of your emotional reserves, a quiet sapping of your inner wellspring. It's as if someone is quietly turning down the volume on your internal joy. It's a slow, insidious dimming of your light. The source? Often, it's not deliberate malice, but a complex dance of unconscious projections and unmet needs. Think of it as a kind of emotional osmosis, a slow, imperceptible transfer of energy, leaving you feeling strangely empty. It's a silent theft, a subtle draining of your positive energy. It's as if someone has a hidden straw, secretly sipping the sweetness from your inner cup. You're left wondering, what just happened? Why do I feel so drained? It's a common experience, more prevalent than you might think. Apparently, some people are talking emotional black holes. It's like they have a built-in psychic vacuum cleaner, sucking the joy right out of the room. You know, the kind that leaves you feeling as if you've just run a marathon while simultaneously battling a swarm of particularly aggressive mosquitoes. You're left wondering how a simple conversation could leave you feeling so utterly depleted. The worst part? It's often unintentional. These aren't necessarily evil people. They're often deeply unhappy themselves, unknowingly projecting their own internal struggles onto others. Think of it as a kind of emotional contagion. But instead of catching a cold, you catch a case of the blahs. It's a subtle psychic leaching, a slow draining of your inner wellspring. They aren't necessarily trying to hurt you. They're desperately trying to fill their own emotional void. It's a tragicomic dance of unmet needs and unconscious projections. They are emotional vampires. But often, they're tragically unaware of their victims. So, you've felt that post-interaction drain, that inexplicable emptiness after spending time with certain individuals. It's like someone quietly siphoned off your emotional reserves, leaving you feeling as flat as weak old soda. It's a peculiar phenomenon, this subtle emotional leaching. We've all experienced it, that strange depletion after a conversation that should have been energizing, even sensing beauty bloom in unexpected moments. This isn't about being overly sensitive, it's about recognizing a pattern, a subtle energy shift that leaves you feeling unexpectedly depleted. It's like a psychic sponge, soaking up all the positive vibes in the room, leaving behind a desolate landscape of emotional exhaustion. Think of it like this. You're a battery, and some people are, well, they're energy vampires. They don't mean to drain you, but their internal struggles create a sort of emotional black hole. It's not a malicious act, necessarily, it's often a subconscious process. They're not consciously trying to suck the joy out of your life. It's more like they're unintentionally siphoning off your positive energy to fuel their own internal turmoil. It's a complex interplay of unconscious needs and projections, a silent drama playing out beneath the surface of everyday interactions. They're inadvertently leaving you emotionally parched, a bit like a wilted flower after a long, dry spell. It's a subtle, insidious drain, leaving you feeling emotionally bankrupt. Imagine a beautiful, vibrant garden representing your emotional well-being. Then picture a parasitic vine, subtly wrapping itself around the plants, slowly sapping their life force. That vine represents the energy vampire, unknowingly draining the vibrancy and vitality from your emotional garden. It's a silent, slow-motion theft, leaving you feeling depleted and emotionally drained. It's not necessarily malicious, it's just parasitic. And understanding that is the first step to protecting yourself. It's a subtle dance, this energy exchange, a silent tug-of-war between your emotional well-being and theirs. Sometimes, it's the constant negativity, the relentless complaining that chips away at your reserves. Other times, it's the desperate need for attention, a constant demand for validation that leaves you feeling emotionally hollowed out. These aren't necessarily bad people. They're often struggling with their own internal demons, their own shadows. Think of it as a kind of emotional osmosis. Their negativity seeps into your emotional space, subtly undermining your positive energy. It's a draining process, a slow bleed of vitality, leaving you feeling emotionally exhausted and depleted. It's not always intentional, sometimes it's simply a matter of unconscious projection. They are projecting their inner turmoil onto you, inadvertently sucking the life from your emotional garden. It's like a psychic leech, feeding off your positive energy to survive. It's a delicate balance, this interaction, a silent struggle for emotional equilibrium. It's about recognizing the subtle signs, persistent negativity, constant demands, and draining conversations that leave you feeling empty. Understanding this dynamic isn't about blaming, it's about self-preservation. It's about recognizing your own boundaries and protecting your emotional well-being. It's about tending your emotional garden, nurturing its growth, and protecting it from the parasitic vines that seek to drain its life force. Learning to recognize these subtle energy drains is the first step toward reclaiming your emotional vitality. After all, your emotional well-being is not a bottomless well, it needs protection and nurturing. Think of it like this: you're a delicious, juicy peach, bursting with sweet goodness. The energy vampire is a tiny but persistent fruit fly, constantly buzzing around, taking tiny sips of your deliciousness. They don't mean to ruin your peachiness, they just really like peach juice. And they're not going to stop until they've had their fill, leaving you slightly less peachy. This isn't about labeling people as bad or good, it's about recognizing patterns of interaction that leave you feeling depleted. Maybe it's the friend who always focuses on their problems, never offering reciprocal support. Or perhaps it's the colleague who thrives on office drama, always stirring the pot and leaving everyone else exhausted. These aren't necessarily malicious individuals, they might be completely unaware of their impact on others. They are simply, unknowingly, draining you. It's a subtle form of emotional parasitism. The key here is self-awareness, recognizing when you're being drained and setting healthy boundaries. Because, let's face it, even the juiciest peach needs time to recharge. And sometimes, that means politely shooing away the fruit flies. Jung called this unconscious draining the projection of the shadow self. It's not a literal vampire, sucking your blood, it's more like a psychic leech, subtly draining your emotional energy. These energy vampires, as we jokingly call them, aren't necessarily evil. They often struggle with their own internal conflicts and project those onto others. Think of it as an unconscious emotional contagion. They aren't actively trying to hurt you. They're just desperately trying to manage their own inner turmoil, often at your expense. This isn't about assigning blame, it's about understanding a dynamic that affects many relationships. Sometimes, it's a matter of recognizing unhealthy patterns and setting boundaries. Other times, it might be about understanding the underlying emotional needs driving this behavior. Remember, even energy vampires need empathy. Though perhaps from a safe distance. It's about self-preservation, protecting your emotional well-being, and recognizing that you deserve to be surrounded by people who lift you up, not drain you dry. It's about recognizing your own worth and refusing to be a host for someone else's emotional baggage. It's about choosing to cultivate your own emotional garden, free from parasitic weeds, and perhaps learning to gently prune those weeds when they inevitably appear. Because, let's be honest, even the most carefully tended garden gets the occasional pest. Think of it like this: you're a beautiful, sun-drenched meadow, brimming with wildflowers and buzzing with life. Suddenly, a herd of particularly demanding goats shows up, munching on your precious blooms and leaving behind a trail of, well, you get the picture. These aren't malicious goats, they're just hungry. But their hunger is impacting your vibrant ecosystem. That, my friend, is the essence of the shadow self in action. It's not about blame, it's about understanding the dynamics at play. The peace she felt began to draw her toward open spaces. Jung believed that we all have a shadow self, the part of ourselves we keep hidden, the aspects we deem unacceptable or undesirable. These aren't necessarily dark and evil, they're simply uncomfortable. Sometimes we project these uncomfortable aspects onto others. It's a defense mechanism, a way of dealing with our own internal conflicts by externalizing them. So, the energy vampire isn't necessarily a villain. They're often someone grappling with their own shadow, unintentionally leeching off the vitality of those around them. It's a complex dance of unconscious projections and emotional needs. And, let's be honest, sometimes those people are just really, really needy. It's a surprisingly common phenomenon, this unconscious emotional draining. We're all capable of being both the source and the drain, at different times. The key is self-awareness, recognizing when we're being drained and when we might be doing the draining. Understanding this dynamic allows us to set boundaries, protect our own emotional well-being, and perhaps even offer a little compassion to those struggling with their own inner demons. Because, sometimes, even the neediest person just needs a little support. This unconscious draining isn't about physical energy, it's about emotional and psychological vitality. Think of it as a subtle psychic leech, slowly sucking the life force from its victim. It's a quiet, insidious process, often unnoticed until the damage is done. You might find yourself feeling unusually tired, irritable, or just plain off after spending time with certain individuals. It's a subtle energy shift, a slow depletion of your inner reserves. And it's surprisingly common. We often mistake this for simple incompatibility, or perhaps just a bad day. But sometimes, it's something more profound, something that speaks to the deeper currents of human interaction and the often unseen ways we influence one another. It's like having a tiny, invisible parasite attached to your emotional core, slowly draining your joy and enthusiasm. It's a subtle vampirism, a quiet siphoning of your inner light. And, just like a physical parasite, sometimes the best thing you can do is gently remove yourself from its proximity. Think of it this way, you're a beautiful, sun-drenched meadow, bursting with wildflowers and buzzing with bees. Then, a herd of metaphorical goats arrives, and they begin munching. These aren't malicious goats, they're simply hungry. They unconsciously gobble up your vibrant energy, leaving you feeling a little less sunny. That, my friend, is the essence of Jung's shadow self in action. This energy vampire, as we jokingly call them, isn't necessarily a bad person. They're often just unaware of their impact. They unconsciously project their own inner goat-like hunger onto others. It's not a conscious act of malice, more like unconscious emotional grazing. They're not trying to deplete you, they're just hungry. And sometimes, the hungriest goats are the ones who need the most compassion. After all, even a goat needs to eat, right? The humor lies in the stark contrast between the seemingly innocent image of a goat and the potent psychological concept of emotional vampirism. It's a relatable analogy that makes a complex idea easily digestible. Apparently, some people are walking, talking emotional black holes. They suck the joy right out of a room, leaving a trail of depleted souls in their wake. It's not necessarily malicious, they're often just unaware. Like a Roomba of negativity, they just keep going, oblivious to the emotional wreckage in their path. This isn't about blaming, it's about understanding. Jung's concept of the shadow self helps us see how these unconscious patterns play out in our relationships. It's about recognizing the subtle signs and learning to protect your own emotional well-being. It's a bit like learning to dodge emotional landmines, except the landmines are disguised as perfectly normal people. It's about recognizing subtle cues, constant complaining, the need for excessive attention, and the draining negativity that leaves you feeling emotionally wrung out. These individuals aren't always bad people. They're often grappling with their own internal struggles. Think of it as a kind of emotional osmosis. They absorb your positive energy, leaving you feeling drained, while they, paradoxically, might feel temporarily replenished. It's a complex dance of unconscious projections and emotional needs. The key, as Jung might say, is integrating the shadow, both within ourselves and in our interactions with others. It's about recognizing that sometimes the most draining people are those who need the most help, even if they don't know it. Imagine a beautiful, lush garden, vibrant with color and teeming with life. That garden is you, your energy, your vitality, and your emotional well-being. Now picture parasitic weeds, insidious and relentless, slowly creeping into the soil, their tendrils wrapping around the vibrant plants. These weeds aren't actively trying to destroy the garden, they're simply absorbing its nutrients to survive. They thrive on the garden's richness, draining its life force to fuel their own growth. This, in a nutshell, is what Jung meant by the shadow self projecting onto others. These weeds are metaphorical energy vampires, often unconsciously feed off the emotional turmoil and negativity around them. Nature's gentle presence invited them forward. This isn't about assigning blame, it's about understanding a dynamic. These individuals, often unaware of their impact, are simply mirroring their own internal struggles. Think of it like a sponge. They soak up the emotional moisture around them, leaving everything dry and parched in their wake. It's not a conscious act of malice, but a desperate, unconscious need to fill a void within. And just like a thirsty sponge, their need can be insatiable, leaving you feeling utterly depleted. It's a subtle form of emotional parasitism, a psychic leeching that leaves you feeling emotionally hollow. The humor, of course, lies in the absurdity of it all. We're essentially talking about emotional plants versus emotional vampires. But the reality, sadly, isn't so funny. It's a serious issue that affects many relationships. Recognizing this dynamic is the first step toward protecting your own emotional well-being. This isn't about labeling people, it's about understanding the complex dance of unconscious projections and emotional needs. The key, as Jung might say, is integrating the shadow, both within ourselves and in our interactions with others. It's about recognizing that sometimes the most draining people are those who need the most help, even if they don't know it. Think of it like a game of emotional tug-of-war. Some individuals unknowingly pull all the energy toward themselves, leaving you feeling exhausted and depleted. This unconscious draining isn't about malice, it's about a desperate need for validation or attention. They might be unconsciously seeking connection, but their methods are deeply flawed. Imagine a black hole, not in space, but in the emotional realm, sucking in everything around it, leaving a void in its wake. These emotional black holes, as we might call them, are often unaware of the devastation they leave behind. They aren't villains, they're simply people struggling with their own inner demons. The irony, of course, is that in trying to fill their own emptiness, they create a vacuum around them, leaving everyone feeling emotionally drained. The challenge is to recognize this dynamic without judgment, to understand the underlying need, and to protect yourself from its impact. Apparently, some people are talking emotional black holes. You know the type. They leave a room, and you suddenly feel the need for a nap and a stiff drink. It's not necessarily their fault, it's just that their emotional needs are like a bottomless pit, constantly demanding more. They aren't intentionally draining you, they're just tragically needy. Think of it as a psychic version of that friend who always needs to borrow money, except instead of cash, they're borrowing your emotional reserves, and they never pay you back. An engaging exploration of personal growth that will help you understand yourself better. Think of it like this. They're emotionally constipated, and they're trying to force their stuff onto you. They don't mean to poison your garden, they just haven't learned how to compost their own emotional waste. This isn't about labeling people, it's about understanding the dynamics at play. Recognizing the patterns, the constant negativity, the need for excessive attention, the subtle, or not so subtle, manipulation, allows us to create healthier boundaries. It's about protecting our own emotional well-being, tending our own gardens, and realizing that we're not obligated to be a dumping ground for everyone else's emotional garbage. After all, your own emotional compost heap needs tending, too. It's a matter of self-preservation, not selfishness. They might not even realize they're doing it. Sometimes, the energy vampire is simply unaware of the impact they have on others. Their own internal struggles are so consuming that they don't notice how their negativity overshadows everything around them. It's like a black hole. They're so focused on the gravitational pull of their own problems that they don't see the stars, the people around them, being sucked in. It's a tragic irony. They crave connection, but unknowingly repel it. Their neediness becomes a repellent. Think of it as psychological osmosis, a slow, insidious draining of emotional resources. They aren't necessarily malicious, they're simply broken. Their brokenness inadvertently spills over, infecting the emotional landscape of those around them. This isn't about blame, it's about understanding the underlying mechanism. It's about recognizing that sometimes the most draining people are those who are themselves deeply drained, desperately trying to fill a bottomless pit. It's a painful realization. But understanding this dynamic allows for compassion, even as we set healthy boundaries. Because, let's face it, even a compassionate gardener needs to protect their prize roses from parasitic weeds. We can't save everyone. But we can certainly save ourselves. They're like emotional black holes, sucking the joy right out of a room. But sometimes the most effective defense isn't a shield, but a mirror. By reflecting their negativity back to them, not confrontationally, but by simply refusing to engage, you can subtly disrupt the parasitic process. Imagine a vampire confronting a mirror. The reflection is unsettling, unexpected, and disrupts their usual feeding pattern. It's about disrupting the energy flow, creating a psychic circuit breaker. This doesn't mean being unkind, it's about self-preservation. It's about recognizing that your emotional well-being is not a bottomless well. It's about establishing boundaries, not walls. Think of it as selective permeability, allowing positive interactions to flourish while deflecting negative ones. It's not about isolating yourself, it's about cultivating a healthy emotional ecosystem. It's about choosing to surround yourself with people who nourish your spirit, adding to your energy rather than depleting it. These are the people who tend your garden, not the weeds that choke it. It's about prioritizing your own emotional health, understanding that sometimes the most loving act is setting a boundary. It's about recognizing that you have the right, the responsibility, even, to protect your own emotional garden. And that, my friend, is a superpower. It's about reclaiming your energy and making sure your emotional well-being is not just surviving, but thriving. After all, you deserve a garden that blossoms, not wilts. It's about recognizing that you have a right, a responsibility, even, to protect your own emotional garden. It's about reclaiming your energy, making sure your emotional well-being is not just surviving, but thriving. Think of it like this. You wouldn't let someone constantly steal your belongings, would you? Your emotional well-being is just as valuable, perhaps even more so. It's not selfish to protect it, it's self-care. Protecting your energy isn't about becoming a hermit, it's about being discerning. It's about learning to identify those who drain you and setting healthy boundaries. It's about choosing your interactions wisely, cultivating relationships that nurture and uplift you. It's about recognizing that your emotional resources are finite, and that you have the power to decide who gets access to them. It's a process of self-discovery, a journey of understanding your own needs and limitations. And remember, sometimes the most powerful act of self-love is saying no. It's about prioritizing your own emotional health, understanding that sometimes the most loving act is setting a boundary. It's about recognizing that you deserve to thrive, not just survive. You deserve to be surrounded by people who nurture you, not those who drain your energy, sensing beauty bloomed in unexpected moments. Think of your emotional energy as a precious, finite resource, like a wellspring of clear, cool water. Some people, like thirsty travelers, come to your well and draw from it respectfully, replenishing it with their own kindness and positive energy. Others, however, are like leaky pipes, constantly draining your well without ever contributing anything in return. They might not even realize they're doing it, it is simply their nature. But the result is the same, your well runs dry, leaving you feeling depleted and exhausted. This isn't about judging these leaky pipes, it's about recognizing their effect and protecting your own wellspring. It's about learning to discern who truly nourishes you and who simply takes. It's a subtle art, but a vital one for your emotional health. It's about self-preservation, about realizing that your emotional well-being is a precious resource that deserves to be guarded and cherished. It's about choosing to surround yourself with those who add to your wellspring, not drain it. You deserve to have your well overflowing, not constantly running on empty. And remember, replenishing your own well is just as important as protecting it from those who would drain it. Self-care isn't selfish, it's essential. Recognizing that your emotional well-being is a precious resource that deserves to be guarded and cherished is key. Sometimes, the most difficult thing to do is protect your own energy, to say no to demands that leave you feeling depleted. But the strength to do so is a testament to your self-awareness and self-respect. It's a sign of emotional maturity, a recognition that your well-being is paramount. Sensing nature's gentle presence, she invited herself forward. Think of it this way. You wouldn't let someone constantly steal from your bank account, would you? You'd set up safeguards, monitor your transactions, and take steps to protect your finances. Your emotional well-being deserves the same level of protection. It's not about being unkind, it's about self-preservation. It's about recognizing your right to protect your own energy and to choose who you allow to draw from your wellspring. It's about recognizing your worth and setting boundaries that honor it. It's a process of self-discovery, a journey of understanding your own needs and limitations. Remember, it's okay to say no. It's okay to prioritize your own needs. It's okay to distance yourself from those who consistently drain your energy. In fact, it's essential. Your emotional health is not a luxury, but a necessity. Protecting your energy is an act of self-love, and self-love is never selfish. It's the foundation upon which a fulfilling and vibrant life is built, the key to unlocking your full potential and living a life that is truly your own, rich and abundant in emotional energy. Sometimes, these energy vampires aren't even aware of their actions. They might be struggling with their own inner demons, projecting their negativity outward without realizing the impact. It's a complex interplay of unconscious projections and unmet needs. Think of it as emotional osmosis. They're not necessarily trying to harm you. They're simply absorbing your energy to fill their own emotional void. It's a subtle, often unintentional, draining of your vitality. This isn't about labeling people or assigning blame. It's about understanding the dynamics of human interaction and learning to protect your emotional well-being. It's about recognizing the signs, constant complaining, negativity, and the need for excessive attention, and learning to set healthy boundaries. It's about recognizing that your energy is precious, and you have the right to protect it. It's about choosing to nurture your own emotional garden rather than letting it be overrun by parasitic weeds, and sensing beauty bloom in unexpected moments. Remember, you deserve full energy reserves, ready to tackle life's challenges. You deserve to feel energized and inspired, not depleted and drained. Learning to recognize and manage these dynamics is crucial for your emotional well-being. It's about self-preservation, self-respect, and self-love. It's about creating a life where you thrive, not just survive. Sometimes, these energy vampires are masters of manipulation, consciously or unconsciously drawing energy from others to fuel their own needs. They might be incredibly charming, experts at making you feel seen and heard, only to leave you feeling emotionally depleted afterward. It's a subtle form of emotional parasitism. Think of it as a beautiful, poisonous flower, alluring at first glance, but ultimately harmful. It's a delicate balance between genuine connection and subtle exploitation. Understanding this dynamic is key to protecting yourself. Identifying these individuals isn't always easy. They might be family members, friends, colleagues, or even romantic partners. Often possessing high emotional intelligence, they're adept at exploiting your vulnerabilities and empathy. Self-awareness becomes crucial here. Recognizing your own emotional needs and boundaries is the first step in protecting yourself from such subtle emotional predation. This isn't about becoming cynical or distrustful of everyone. It's about cultivating a healthy sense of self-preservation. It's about understanding that your emotional well-being is paramount, and that you have the right to protect it. Learning to recognize the signs, setting boundaries, and prioritizing your own emotional health are crucial steps in navigating the complex world of human relationships. It's a journey of self-discovery and empowerment. It's about cultivating a life where your energy flows freely, enriching your life and the lives of those around you. Recognizing the energy vampire isn't about blaming, it's about self-preservation, a crucial aspect of Jungian psychology. It's about understanding that you have a right to your own emotional well-being, a right to protect your inner garden from parasitic weeds. Think of it as tending your own soul, weeding out the negativity, nurturing the positive, and creating a space where you can truly flourish. This isn't about becoming a hermit, it's about cultivating healthy relationships built on mutual respect, not emotional exploitation. Sensing nature's gentle presence invited her forward. This journey of self-discovery involves learning to identify your own emotional needs and boundaries. It's about recognizing when someone is draining your energy, not necessarily through malice, but through their own unconscious needs and patterns. Understanding that you don't have to sacrifice your well-being for others is key. You deserve to be surrounded by people who lift you up, not leech from you. It's a journey of self-love, self-respect, and self-empowerment. This isn't about shutting yourself off from the world. It's about choosing your battles and protecting your energy. It's about surrounding yourself with people who nourish your soul, who understand the importance of mutual respect and reciprocity in relationships. It's about creating a life where you thrive, not just survive. It's about recognizing your worth and demanding the emotional space you deserve. It's about learning to say no without guilt, and yes only to what truly nourishes your spirit. Recognizing the energy vampire isn't about becoming a recluse, barricaded in a fortress of self-protection. It's a more nuanced dance, a delicate balance between connection and self-preservation. Think of it like this: you're a magnificent oak tree, strong and rooted. But even the mightiest oak can be weakened by parasitic vines. These vines don't necessarily intend harm. They simply need to survive, and they do so by drawing sustenance from the oak. The key isn't to chop down the tree, but to carefully prune away the clinging vines, allowing the oak to continue its growth unimpeded, sensing grounded strength and steady support. This involves setting healthy boundaries, learning to say no without guilt, and prioritizing your own well-being. It's about recognizing that your emotional energy is a precious resource, not an endless well to be freely drawn upon. You deserve to be surrounded by people who appreciate and respect this. It's not about pushing people away, but about creating space for genuine, reciprocal relationships where energy flows freely and equally between individuals. It's about recognizing that your emotional health is paramount, and that nurturing it is essential, not selfish. This isn't a solitary journey, it's a process of self-discovery and empowerment. It's about recognizing your inherent worth, your right to emotional well-being, and your ability to create a life where you flourish. And remember, even the most resilient oak tree needs sunlight, water, and fertile soil. Nourish yourself, protect your energy, and watch yourself grow. It's a journey of self-love, self-respect, and self-empowerment. It's about creating a life where you thrive, not just survive. It's about demanding the emotional space you deserve. Recognizing the energy vampire isn't about casting blame, it's about self-preservation. It's about understanding that you have a right to protect your emotional well-being. Think of it like this: you wouldn't let someone constantly steal your belongings, would you? Your emotional energy is just as valuable, if not more so. Protecting it isn't selfish, it's self-care. Jung's concept of the shadow helps us understand that these energy vampires are often not intentionally malicious. They are often grappling with their own inner demons, projecting their negativity outward. They are like a leaky faucet, constantly dripping negativity, unaware of the damage they are causing. It's not about judging them, but about recognizing the pattern and protecting yourself from the constant drip of their negativity. The key is setting boundaries, and that's not always easy. It might involve saying no to requests that drain you, limiting contact with those who consistently leave you feeling depleted, or simply creating more space in your life for activities that replenish your energy. This isn't about becoming a hermit. It's about cultivating a life where you prioritize your emotional well-being. It's about choosing who you let into your inner circle, carefully tending your emotional garden. Remember, you deserve to flourish. So, next time you feel emotionally drained after an interaction, remember, you're not alone, and you definitely don't have to be a victim. You're not a wilting flower at the mercy of parasitic weeds. You're a resilient oak, capable of weathering any storm. You have the power to cultivate your own emotional landscape, to nurture your inner garden, and to choose the company you keep. It's about self-respect, and it's about recognizing your inherent worth. Think of it this way: your emotional energy is a precious resource, like a limited edition vintage wine. You wouldn't let just anyone guzzle it down, would you? You'd carefully select who gets to savor it, wouldn't you? The same principle applies to your emotional well-being. Protect it fiercely, cherish it deeply, and share it only with those who truly appreciate its value. Don't let energy vampires drain your precious vintage. This isn't about becoming cynical or distrustful, it's about becoming discerning. It's about cultivating a keen awareness of your own emotional needs and boundaries. It's about understanding that saying no is not selfish, it's self-preservation. It's about recognizing your right to protect your emotional space and nurture your own inner wellspring of joy, peace, and resilience. It's about reclaiming your power. You are worthy of emotional abundance. You are worthy of a life filled with vibrant, positive energy. And you have the power to create it. So, let's talk about those emotional black holes, those walking, talking psychic leeches. Share your most memorable energy vampire encounter, anonymously, of course. We're all ears. What were the subtle, or not so subtle, signs? Did they leave you feeling emotionally depleted, as if you'd run a marathon through quicksand? Did you feel a strange sense of emptiness after interacting with them, a feeling that something precious had been silently stolen? Did you find yourself constantly apologizing for their behavior or feeling responsible for their moods? These are all telltale signs. Perhaps you felt compelled to constantly reassure them or fix their problems, even if it meant neglecting your own needs. Maybe they were masters of subtle guilt trips, leaving you feeling responsible for their emotional well-being at your own expense. Let's unpack these experiences together. It's time to share strategies, learn from each other's experiences, and build a community of emotional resilience. Let's build our collective defense against these psychic leeches. What are your go-to techniques for fending off energy vampires? Let's discuss. Your brain acts like a stand-up comedian at the worst possible moments. We've all been there, haven't we? That sudden, unexpected surge of self-deprecating humor arrives right when you're trying to impress someone, or that perfectly timed inner monologue of anxieties begins just as you're about to give a presentation. It's as if our brains actively sabotage our attempts at grace and composure. It's a bizarre form of comedic self-sabotage. But what if I told you this comedic timing isn't entirely random? What if I suggested that sometimes our inner comedian is actually trying to communicate something? That our seemingly inappropriate jokes might be a way of processing difficult emotions or deflecting from uncomfortable situations? Consider this. Humor often serves as a defense mechanism. It allows us to distance ourselves from painful experiences, to find absurdity in the midst of chaos, and to cope with stress in a less overwhelming way. It's a coping mechanism, a survival strategy. Our inner comedian, therefore, may be less of a saboteur and more of a surprisingly effective therapist, a darkly humorous one, perhaps. But a therapist nonetheless. It's a fascinating paradox, isn't it? Our minds can use humor to both undermine and protect us simultaneously. It's a double-edged sword, both hilarious and terrifying. That's precisely what makes it so compelling, the kind of dark humor only the subconscious could conjure. What do you think? Anyone with similar experiences should comment below and check out the full video via the link below.